All right, everyone, welcome. Harrison Talks Pod, lucky number 13. And I said last week that I would stop introducing myself since I already put my name in the title. So, welcome back. I hope that everyone's had a good week. And I know that this is more of a. I started this podcast to practice and build up this audience. And I figured, hey, if I start small, then I can work through those mistakes as I build up an audience. But if anyone is listening to this and is affected or knows someone affected, which is pretty much everyone, by natural events and what's going on in California, uh, it's horrible, and been thinking about it a lot. So I'll just say that at the top. And again, I hope everyone as well had a good week. Uh, I'm recording this on a Tuesday afternoon in sunny Thailand, or right after the Spurs Lakers game on Monday evening. Speaking of Los Angeles, Michael Cooper gave a really nice speech for his jersey retirement. So that was kind of cool to see, and of course, lots of old Laker players there. Anyways, let's get on with it. There's too much basketball and perhaps a couple narratives just for fun to talk about today. So let's talk about Wembanyama, best sophomore season of all time? Question mark. And some unexpected, very hot teams around the NBA, which I'm so excited to see, and just proves that I don't know anything that goes on in the league. It's just fun to watch. Indiana Pacers, Detroit Pistons, and Sacramento Kings. But first, as I said, let's start with Wembanyama. Wemby just helped the Spurs win over the Lakers, scoring 21 points, and has just had a breakout sophomore season. It's very interesting that if you look at some of the biggest players of all time, the sophomore season is very, very important, of course. It's like the breakout year for so many top players. Not Michael Jordan, of course. He did go to the playoffs that second year, but missed most of the season due to his broken foot. And that's kind of where I want to end on, so I'm kind of um, going out of order here. So, for some context, Wembanyama, of course, won Rookie of the Year last season and was second in Defensive Player of the Year. And for the second half of the season, might have been the best defensive player in the league. And something that I can't compare anything to, as far as what I have seen, maybe Tim Duncan. Um, I was pretty young, and it's a different impact. It's kind of a different impact and a whole different Spurs team, that's for sure. But to see someone that has so much confidence and so much hype, and someone that I thought was going to be great after seeing videos of him at 16 years old, uh, lived up and I think exceeded all of it because it takes most rookies more than half a season to figure it out, and was working ahead of a schedule that with the team that he was given, pretty much. And I think we talked last week about if the Spurs will be done at the deadline, if they could be in the Jimmy Butler lottery, or if they might make any sort of changes. Given that they are in a great spot right now, even though they have a very old Chris Paul, who has been playing very well for them this season, would they make any moves now to make sure they are in the playoffs this year? Again, I'm kind of moving ahead. Let's go back. Let's go back. Let's go back. Okay. 4 blocks per game leads the league, and um, it's more than two teams overall. 6.8 blocks per game for the Spurs leads the NBA. And not only that, but um, without Wembanyama, the Spurs would be dead last in blocks by a lot. I mean, this is hypothetical. Whoever you replace Wemby with, still, the on-off are very, very interesting. So, for more context, the Spurs have the 19th best offense. Their rating is 111.2. When Wembanyama is on court this season, they're at 115.2, which would be good enough for ninth best in the league. And when he's off, it is 108.2, which would be the equivalent of 28th. So hypothetical, but huge difference in on-off. Not looking at defense. Spurs are 13th at 112.1. When Wemby is on court, they are 109.9, which would be equal to 8th best. And when he's off, is 117.7, which is equal to 28th, almost 29th. Very, very staggering. So pretty much when Wemby's on, they are a top 10 offense and defense. When he's off, they are almost dead last in everything. If season ended today, Wemby would be 17th in blocks per game in NBA history. 18 players in total in NBA history have averaged 4 or more blocks per game. There have been only 4 players, and I'm stealing the stat from someone or some broadcast, but either way, I looked it up. So there have been 4 players, according to StatCast, that have averaged 25 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 blocks for a season. That would be Hakeem in 92-93. They won the title that year. He was second in MVP next to Charles Barkley. Kareem in 75 and 76 won MVP that year. Patrick Ewing in 89-90, which is crazy because he was 5th in MVP that year. Might have to do a deep dive. Was the 89-90 season one of the best NBA seasons of all time? That might be true. In Wemby's last 12 games, he has averaged 5.1 blocks, 27.3 points per game, 11.8 rebounds per game. He is now 5th best in MVP voting odds. I only add that for context. Not a betting person, and I did not look up where he was in the weeks prior. The odds are plus 10,000. Don't make any sense to me. Do that as you will. The only reason why I bring it up is for context. The players above him are SGA, Jokic, Giannis, and Tatum. In my opinion, that might be the order. That might be the order of MVP odds as well. Yes, it might be the overall MVP odds that I agree with. There we go. There we go. Jokic might be the best answer. We talked about it last week, the historic season that he's been having, along with career. But SGA certainly has the best team. All right, so has Wemby had the best sophomore season? The answer is probably not. Only because there have been some great sophomore seasons from some of the best players of all time. And I want to make a case that we might need to kind of split it up by the eras that the players played in. So, for example, Kareem in his sophomore season, 31.7 points per game, 16 rebounds. Okay. That might be the best sophomore season we've seen from anyone, but puts more in the context of modern NBA because next, let's bring up Wilt. Wilt in his sophomore season, 38.4 points per game, 27.2 rebounds. So What do we do there? Bill Russell, 16.6 point per game, 22.7 rebounds. And then the best deep dive of the day, Oscar Robertson. Oscar Robertson, 30.8 points per game, 12.5 rebounds, 11.4 assists. Average a 30-point triple-double in his sophomore season, 60 in 1960-61. So, how do we put that in context with modern NBA? I don't know. Again, the 25, 10, and 4 stat line has only been done 4 times, and it's also in comparison to other top players, other players that won MVP or were close to MVP that year. What other modern players can we look at? Tim Duncan, sophomore season, 21.7 points per game, 11.4 rebounds, 2.5 blocks. Larry Bird, 21.2 points, 10.9 rebounds, 5.5 assists on a historic 62-win team. More modern, Luka Doncic, 28.8 points, 9.4 rebounds, 8.8 assists. Amazing. And LeBron, 27.2 points, 7.4 rebounds, 7.2 assists, 2.2 steals. So, it's kind of clickbait, I guess. Not the best sophomore season, perhaps. We'll see where he ends. But without a doubt, if he stays on pace, he's going to have one of, in debates of the best modern sophomore season ever. So the eras make it just too difficult to compare. Let's move ahead. Very excited to see the movement and how close these standings are heading into the All-Star break. Well, we're still a few weeks out, but you know what I mean. First, I want to talk about Indiana Pacers. They've won 6 straight, and on Sunday afternoon, they ended the Cavs' 12-game win streak. They beat the Cavs 108-93. Impressive win for the Pacers, led by Andrew Nembhard with 19 points. Had 6 players in double digits. Nembhard, Benedict Mathurin with 12, Siakam with 18, Miles Turner with 15, Thomas Bryant with 11, Obi Toppin with 12. Halliburton had only 2 points before going down with hamstring injury. He is doubtful. I believe he's day to day. So hopefully nothing long term there with how well he's been playing recently. The Cavs led this game 53-40 at half, and the Pacers outscored them 37-18 in the third. Had a huge comeback, and they will rematch with them on Tuesday, or rather tomorrow, as I put this out. 6 straight wins, and each win has come with by 12 points or more. They are now 9th in offense overall at 115.3 and has had the best offense in the last 6 games at 121.5. Second in defensive rating in that same span at 106.8, next to Oklahoma City Thunder at 102.8. During the same 6 games, they are second in assists at 31 assists per game, next to the Cavs. They are second in net rating at 15 next to the Thunder at 16.7. And they are 7th in assists percentage at 67.6. So, again, hopefully Halliburton isn't out for that long. During this same time, he's had the second best offensive rating at 129.7 of any player that has played 30 minutes or more, average 30 minutes or more. Benedict Mathurin has had the best net rating of any player, averaging 30 minutes or more at 10.7. During this streak, he's averaged 14.8 points, 5.2 rebounds, 2.3 assists on 43% shooting. So, has had a great season. Has had a consistent season, but still room for improvement. Speaking of consistent, Siakam has had a very consistent year, averaging nearly 20 points on 58% effective field goal percentage. Shot 56% field goal percentage over the last 6 games, while only shooting 23% from 3 on 4.3 attempts. Obi Toppin has been doing very well during the streak as well. He's averaged 10.3 points per game and is that's slightly over a career high is what I'm trying to say. There we go. But to point out, 73% from 2, which leads the league. 73%. Wow. I would have missed that, I think, if I didn't look that up. So lots of consistent play, lots of big play from his team overall, whether it's in the starting lineup, on the bench, stepping up when big players get injured. We'll see how they do in their next matchup against the Cavs, who are also, of course, first or second best team in the league right now. Let's move on. Let's stay in the East, talk about the Detroit Pistons, who just won against the Knicks a couple hours ago, time of recording this. Second win in a row against the Knicks after losing 16 straight against that team. They've won 7 of their last 8, 10 of their last 12. They're currently in 8th place, only 1.5 games out of 4th, and only 2.5 games above 10th place. There's been lots of movement in a super close Eastern Conference. Cade Cunningham, in this last game against the Knicks, scored 36 points. Malik Beasley scored 22 off the bench, including a huge three to ice the game at the end. Exciting game from Brunson, scoring 31. Mikal Bridges scoring 27. Cat scoring 26. It was the 7th triple-double. Oh, excuse me. Moving on. In the last game against Toronto before this, Cade Cunningham had a 7th triple-double against the Raptors. He is third to LeBron James and Jokic in triple-doubles for the season. Should have his first All-Star this season with, if his numbers stay consistent like this, 24.2 points per game, 6.7 rebounds, 9.5 assists with a team that in all ways is overperforming for most people's expectations, I would think. In the last 8 games, Detroit is 12th in offense and 2nd in defense at 102.5, 6th in net rating at 7.4. Other big offensive performances during this 8 games includes Malik Beasley at 15.8 points per game, Tim Hardaway Jr. at 14.7 points per game, Tobias Harris at 15.5 points per game. Jaden Ivey has been an improvement this season. Will hopefully be back in February or March. Had a broken fibula. Oh, that's horrible. Was playing very well before that. And if you want to look at the bright side for Detroit fans, well, Detroit is playing very, very well, and they will eventually get this player back, hopefully before the end of the season. Malik Beasley has had his best offensive year since 2021, while only starting 11 of his 35 games, shooting 40% from 3 on 9.4 attempts. Tim Hardaway has started all 35 games that he's played and has had some huge offensive nights, including 27 against Toronto in the game before the Knicks. Tobias Harris has seen improvements of the last 8 games. The last 8 games, he's averaged 16.1 points, 6.9 rebounds, 3.1 assists, much closer to his career averages. Of course, has taken a dip this year, but the usage of veterans on this team has been different and has changed as the season has gone on as well. Can't say enough about how connected this team is and I can only imagine how much impact veteran presence has on a young team like this. Of course, this is the same team, not the same team, but last season they were 4-36. So winning 10 of 12 games is just phenomenal. Uh, Eighth place right now. Will they be a play-in team? I don't know. Will they get out of the play-in? I don't know. Uh, but no matter what, this is a great story that should be highlighted, of course. You know, don't look at it too pessimistically, I think. I want to end this part by saying what happened. And I hate to do that, but I don't know what happened that made this team successful, unless it's just what I talked about. The team growing together and having teams buy in together with a mix of young and veteran players. I assumed they would be sellers of their veteran players heading into the lottery and heading into uh, the trade deadline with players like Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley. Now I'm not sure because if you're not going to try for the lottery, especially with the bad luck the Pistons have had, if you're at all superstitious about this, I think you either go all in for the lottery and try to get Cooper Flag, try to get the first pick, or especially since you're in the East, try to be a top 6 team. At the very least, try to be a top 10 team. Because seeing this team in the play-in would be so exciting, and seeing them win at that stage would be exciting as well. You know, mid-season tournament, play-in tournament, uh, just great fan base overall. I think would be very supportive of this. So if that's a decision, I just don't know. I don't know how this team improved so much to this point. To the point where, I mean, if they had 10 wins on the season, I would say that is expected. Um, go for the lottery, and 10 wins is still twice as much as last season. So, wow. And last team let's talk about today, the Kings have won their 7th straight, and this is my second biggest surprise of the last 2 weeks. 7 games, to my surprise, is the longest streak of the quote unquote Beam Team era. 7-1 under Doug Christie after a 6-game losing streak with Mike Brown before the change to the interim coach. Let's put it like that. The firing, of course. It's always interesting to see the team change when the only thing that's changed is the head coach. But I've said on here, and I've always believed, and I'd like to believe that head coaching is just that important. So, De'Aaron Fox and other players have mentioned that he's always had a lot of energy, but since he's at the forefront, that energy just comes through even more. Hey, that makes sense. So during this 7-game win streak, they are 7th in offense at 117.5, second in defense at 106.5, third in net rating at 11.1. They are 20-19, which is good enough for 9th in the West. Brutal. There are 3 games right now that separate 5th place, the Mavericks, and 12th place Spurs. Oh no. 5th and 12th place, there's only 3 games that separate in the West. Kings are 8th in pace the last 7 games, which is a big improvement. This team needs to match their identity. and they believe their identity is to shoot a high volume and get downhill quickly. So an improved pace is what this team wants to see. Stars have been consistent during this streak for sure. Fox has missed 3 games, but has averaged 29.3 points. DeRozan 21.1. Sabonis 19.9. We'll get to him in just a moment. Keegan Murray 12.4, and Malik Monk, who's had the biggest improvement during this streak, 22 points, including 7.6 rebounds, 7.6 assists, 4.3 rebounds on 43% shooting. Still room for improvement. Players like Keon Ellis off the bench have played a big role, averaging 10.1 points per game during this 10-game streak. Not so much from the bench, but tons of starter production, which was expected from this team. It will be interesting to see if Fox can be an all-star this season after not being an all-star last season, having an improved Kings team, which is very much in the forefront now. I mean, you get an interim head coach and you start winning games, and has been playing very well despite missing a few games. DeMar DeRozan playing more consistently last couple of weeks. Still could have doubts with aligning him with De'Aaron Fox. Great to see his improved playing. Not much else to say there. Sabonis has led the league in rebounds the last 2 seasons, and 14.2 rebounds per game this season is a career high for him so far. Last season, he was 8th in MVP, but surprisingly only 10th in Defensive Player of the Year. Which, how does that work? But anyways, NBA third team for the first time in his career. In the 7-game streak, he's averaging 17.3 rebounds per game, including a 20 rebound game against the Celtics. Cat and Sabonis are tied in double doubles this season at 34. So, does this change anything for the Kings heading into the trade deadline? I mean, we'll never know because we're not in the Kings front office, but we can speculate. Kings could, there's not a whole lot of movement in their payroll, but they could put a few players together to try and get someone who is a 3-point shooter. I think what I'm trying to say is if they do trade for someone, it needs to be someone who can shoot the 3. So, of course, we know we're not talking about Jimmy Butler. We were never talking about Jimmy Butler. But a name that we've been seeing thrown around a lot is Kyle Kuzma. It's amazing that Kyle Kuzma signs 3 years, $64.5 million, and that in 2024 is a team-friendly deal, also front-loaded as well, making about $20 million in the 3rd year of his deal. So that could be possible. On paper, it could be possible. Would Kuzma play as a 6-man with the recent success of their starting lineup and not wanting to move? Of course, not moving Fox, but not wanting to move Malik Monk or DeRozan at this time. It could be interesting, and Kuzma is for sure, with his contract, someone we could see get moved, and maybe I would enjoy it more because I really haven't enjoyed watching him on that team at least the last 2 years. So there's one idea. We'll see. Close in the East, close in the middle of the East, close in the middle of the West, and very exciting things heading up into the trade deadline. Let's leave it there. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great week. Stay safe, and I will see you next week. Maybe with guests, I don't know, but we'll see you then.